Hello and welcome to the Freedom Frequency Podcast. I'm your host, Kaya, energy healer, psychic channel, and spiritual mentor for women who are ready to ditch the spiritual rulebook, release the pressure and overwhelm, and let go of all that comparison that makes you feel like what you're doing isn't enough. In this podcast, I'm going to share bits of my journey with you, as well as my wisdom and knowledge to show you that spirituality gets to be something that works for you and not something that you work for. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode. We are doing the December energy update and channeled message today. These episodes are always my most listened to, most downloaded, most popular episodes. Everyone loves a little energy forecast, a little channeled message coming through. So I'm really excited to deliver another one for you. I also have some exciting news that I will be sharing in this episode as well. And I ask you to excuse my scratchy voice. I spent almost the entire afternoon yesterday doing a lot of recording for my program Mirror, finishing up the modules for that one. So my throat is a little bit dry. I've got a tea here with me today, and we're just going to roll with it. So if you hear me kind of like, clear my throat, cough in, sip my tea, then it's just the vibe for this episode today. So I'm going to take a sip of my tea and then we'll dive in and get started. Okay. So the December energy update, as per usual, if you're new here or if just a reminder that's needed, these updates, I have nothing planned really going into it. Sometimes I kind of like know the vibe, like I can already feel the theme, but I start recording, I just hit record, and I have no plan whatsoever for where this conversation is going to go, and we're just going to trust what comes through. So give me one moment to just kind of tune in here and see what's coming up for the month ahead. Okay, so yeah, big emphasis on last month of the year. I know we've already talked a lot about in previous episodes, like the idea of not slowing down at the end of the year. They're also saying like that wow, this episode is going to be wild in terms of my voice. So they're also saying that to remember that it is the end of like our calendar year, but it's not like the end of like the astrological year or anything like that. So I think sometimes people can get into their heads that like, it's all ending now. We're starting fresh January 1st. And a lot of people can get really like tripped up when January rolls around and they feel like, oh no, like I don't feel like there's a fresh start. The energy is kind of funky. I find January always has like a very funky energy. I don't know if you agree, but like I feel like there's an agenda pushed, like not an agenda, but like, there's a lot being pushed about like January 1st, like it's the first day of the year, like let's like, start our fitness plans, start our new diets, like all this like random stuff, right? And then I think a lot of people like set themselves up to fail because of that, because they view it as like this fresh start, like kind of like, I'll start on Monday vibes. And they put so much pressure on it when really the energy of January is so funky. But anyway, I'm sure that'll come up during our January energy update, but it felt like it needed to be said now. I think because in December, we start to like, think about January. We start to think about next year. We start to think about like, what goals we're going to have for the next year. We reflect on the year that has already passed and like, how was it? Did I achieve my goals that I set last January or whatever it is, right? And so in this time of reflection and resetting goals, it's something to keep in mind that like, it doesn't have to be like this page turning. It can just be this continuation. That's kind of what they're sharing is like, we don't have to view it as like, okay, this chapter's over, on to the next one, like tying up loose ends. Why can't it just be a continuation? Like December's not the end of anything. It's just, let's keep going. let's keep going energy. And I think this is kind of what I've shared in other episodes and on my page on Instagram too, where like when we start to view like, oh, the year's over, like December's here, like everything's over, I'll just like start up again next year. It's kind of like energetically, like it shows like a break between years, right? Like there's like this crack in momentum because we're dividing it instead of just like, let's keep going. And they're saying like, I see like the spirit guides are like laughing. They're like, you guys are so funny about time. Like even with these like energy updates, like they're like month by month, and it's kind of like it's just made up on time, right? They're like, we could do these like on random sporadic days, and that's why like channel messages sometimes do come out on sporadic days too. But they're like, we like to chunk things so much into time, and in that we put so much pressure on time. And I feel like that's a really big theme right now is the, you know, the collective, and as the years are ending and coming anew, then it's like, where are we placing pressure and expectations on time? Like where are we like, I have to get this done by the end of the year to meet my goals. Like, whereas if you finished it up in January, like, would that be so bad? You know, like I see this happen with business owners all the time too. And I know that like I've been caught in the cycle as well, where we kind of like put so much pressure on like the month to month sales or whatever, right? Like the sales or revenue, cash, whatever. And in that, like, we get so like, oh no, it was the last day of the month and like I didn't meet my quota and like my goal for this month. And then like a bunch of sales pour in on like the first of the following month. Like, are you really that mad that like it didn't fall under the calendar month? Or are you just happy that like in the grand scheme of things, like momentum is building and it doesn't matter if it was categorized under that specific month, you know what I mean? And that's really what they're showing here in terms of like December. But in terms of December being like that energy where people are reflecting on the whole year, they're kind of like, look at the whole year and like look at the goals that you had set for yourself in January if you did that. And not only look at like what didn't happen and like, I'm running out of time, but they're saying like look too at like everything that has transpired otherwise. You know what I mean? Like I feel like sometimes we set goals and we have intentions and things like that, but like we actually don't know where the year is going to go. Because I know for me, like the beginning of the year, a lot of the goals I had like didn't come into fruition because as I evolved as a person throughout the year, my goals actually changed. So the things that I wanted in January, oh, my dog's barking. The things I wanted in January are things that I don't really want right now. Like I stopped wanting maybe in the summer. Like, so they're saying to like, just allow yourself to evolve and change in that, and allow yourself when you're reflecting back on the year and, you know, maybe there's some goals that you didn't hit for this year that you were hoping to, then give yourself grace in that because there was change that occurred anyway. And they're saying too, like, there's evolution and change. Sorry, my dog's coming in here whining. There's evolution and change that occurs in you not receiving what you desire as fast as you want or in your own timeline. So we get so caught up in our own timelines and putting pressure on it. And then like when it doesn't happen in the timeline we set out, we get disappointed. You know, we have like, oh, what did I do wrong? Or, I'm so disappointed. And like, of course, like let's honor our feelings of disappointment. Like we don't want to like shove them aside and be like, I shouldn't be disappointed. But like they're saying like, honor your feelings, but also realize that like, it doesn't, as much as we are co-creators in the life we desire, time is such a funny thing. And when we start to put our goals into specific timelines, that just doesn't resonate in the quantum field, right? It doesn't resonate when we're like, hey, spirit guides, like, I want this done in 6 weeks. And they're kind of like, time doesn't exist here. What are you talking about? So when we start to like, you know, put those time pressures on things and we start to head towards now the end of the calendar year and thinking like, all this stuff I wanted for this year didn't work out. It's like, no, it's working out. It just didn't work out in the timeline that you had set up, or potentially your desires have changed over the course of the year and your path and your direction, right? So they're really wanting to put an emphasis on that and put an emphasis on like, how can we set goals and intentions for ourselves for, as we're thinking of that for the next year, how can we set goals and intentions without worrying so much about timelines, without feeling so much pressure to put a timeline on things, without feeling the impatience of needing a timeline? Like, can we just trust that what we desire is going to unfold, whether it be in December, whether it be in January, whether it be next year or the year after? Like, can we just trust that it's all unfolding in the correct time for us, and that we don't have to, manipulate and control with a timeline of our own, right? Because we're co-creators, and we get to create our life with the divine, with the energetics, and like the quantum field, right? Like, we get to, everything we do, we're communicating with the quantum field. Like, all the actions we take, every belief we have, like the way we flow through our day to day, we're in communication, we're co-creating. But sometimes as humans, I feel like we like to be the ones in the driver's seat, right? And like, yes, we are so powerful. Like, we have the power to create our reality, but we also are in the co-creation, right? Like, we're not doing it alone. Like, we need the spiritual realm to help us. Like, with manifestation, like, we need help. We need somebody to co-create with us, right? So when we are on our end, trying to manipulate and control with like timelines and expectations, and this has to go this specific way in this time, and getting really nitpicky, then it kind of leaves like not a lot of wiggle room for the co-creation process, right? It's like we're just trying to do it all by ourselves. We're trying to create, and we're not trusting our partner in the co-creation process, like whether that's universe, God, whatever you see, spirit guides. So it's really important. It's like being in a relationship with somebody, or like working with someone on like a school project, right? And you're like, okay, we're going to do this school project together, or this work project or whatever. And so I want to get all of our stuff done in the first week. I want to get everything kind of done, and then we can spend the second week like practicing our presentation and like, blah, blah, blah. And you're just like setting your own timelines, doing your own thing. And the other person's like, but wait, like, I have other plans for this week. Like, I have another project going on right now. Or like, we need to wait for, this thing to happen over this week so that we can do this other piece better next week. Like, if we wait a week, we'll be able to do it better next week. Like, so it's like when we're trying to like control only on our side and like tell the other person how it's going to be, we're not leaving room for them to offer their perspectives and offer their wisdom and guidance. And it's the same thing with manifestation and with our growth journey, when we're co-creating with the universe, and we're just like, here's how it's going to go, universe, without allowing for a higher perspective, without allowing for another perspective to come in from the universe. Like, now's not the right time, and you can't see why right now, and that just has to be okay. So yeah, I feel like that's going to be a really big theme for December, as we're all in the energy of like things are wrapping up. And I know like they're showing me too, like, Christmas gatherings are coming up. Like, people are sitting around the table with their families at Christmas, and everyone's kind of like, checking in on you. And I feel like there's a lot of pressure around that too, around family gatherings, where, your distant relatives and stuff are kind of like, oh, like, did you get a new job yet? Did you find this thing yet? Are you dating anyone now? And like, there's this pressure to like have performed in certain areas of your life, right? Like have met certain goals and areas, like especially if you've voiced it like at the beginning of the year, like, oh, I'm going to lose 40 pounds this year. And then at Christmas, like your aunt's like, so like, how is that workout routine going? Like, you look the same, kind of thing, right? Like, there's a lot of pressure to perform on things like that. And so they're really saying like, during this season where, people are checking in on if we met our goals that we said we set, or we're checking in on ourselves and we're thinking about next year and what do I want to do next year, to really give ourselves grace on the timeline, and really give ourselves grace of like, it's a journey. Like, it's okay if some of my goals for this year changed and what transpired anyway. And it's also okay if some of my goals from this year that I still desire roll over into next year, because I made progress this year. Even if I can't see it, there was progress made energetically because I set that intention and the ball is rolling. And now I get to kind of like extract the lessons from this year and roll them into next year. So that's really the major theme coming through. I feel like the message is kind of like complete on their end. So hopefully that lands for you. Hopefully this is something where you're like, okay, yeah. Because I know for me, like listening to the message as I channel it, like it's not from my own mind, right? Like it's from the spiritual realm. So as I'm listening, I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, like some of this was relevant to me too. So definitely gives me something to reflect on. And yeah, I have so much coming through as we're like closing out the year and starting anew, and there's just so much being channeled through from the spirit guides during this time. Like I feel like it's such a powerful time, especially obviously with things going on in the world right now. Like there's a lot of energy shifting, and I feel like the spiritual realm, like my guides have so much to say. So yeah, I'll be channeling a lot more and speaking a lot more to the energetics of this time in my 2024 manifestation party, which I will link in the show notes. We're going to be doing a lot of channeling. We're going to be doing a lot of clearing, a lot of intention settings with all of this kind of stuff in mind now, especially to really close out this year, but keep momentum going as we head into next year. So we'll be kind of following a lot of this theme, and I'll be channeling a lot more like this for that. So I'll link that in the show notes. Right now, it's just like, I think when this airs, it'll still be $8.88, but if not, it'll be $18.88. So it's still like a really low ticket way to come and end the year with me and listen to some channeling and things like that. And then I promised I had some exciting news to share in this episode too. And if you've stayed and listened to the end when I talk about all my offers, thank you so much. So this exciting news is something that I've been sitting on for quite some time. I had kind of like half the idea dropped in like months and months ago, and I was like, I don't know, like, you know, and I needed to wait for some of the pieces to kind of fall into place and like the full idea to form. But I'm going to be launching a new offer, which I did not anticipate because I had already had a few things on the go for the end of this year. But this has to come through, and I'm going to be launching a new offer called The Channel. And it's going to be on a pre-sale when this episode airs. So right now you can join it for a very low pre-sale price. And it is something that is included in the healing membership. So if you are a member of the healing membership, then you automatically will have access to this offer. So don't worry. And this offer, the channel, is going to be a weekly channeled message like this one. So if you like when I just like riff and channel on different things, this is exactly what this offer is going to be, but it'll be every week delivered to you. I will probably be doing some like oracle cards in the mix as well, and kind of like, you know, pulling and seeing what the energy is coming through for each week. So it'll be a really great opportunity for you to receive a weekly channeled message, setting the tone for the week, what needs to come through, like how can you go through your week with a specific lens on to look at something that is being shared from the spiritual realm. That's kind of how I would describe it. So I'll have more details to come on that as the launch unfolds, but it's very new. So the details are still unfolding as I finalize them. But if you are wanting to get your hands on this offer before the price increases as more details are released, then I will have the link for that in the show notes as well. And like I said, if you're in the healing membership, then you are already in this. So don't buy it. Don't sign up for it. You're already included. So there will be some changes coming to the healing membership as well as part of this restructure with this new edition coming in. So if you're already in the healing membership, nothing will change for you. But if you've been thinking about joining the healing membership, then all I'll say is like, now is the time to join, because the changes that are coming are going to be very juicy for the people who are already inside. But for those who are joining new, then there'll be a quite a significant restructure in how it is and the access that you have to me. So if you are wanting to either join the manifestation party, join the channel, or join the membership, I will have all of those links in the show notes for you. And if you have any questions, of course, you can message me and we can have a no pressure conversation to see if any of those would be a good fit for where you're at right now and the support that you're desiring. So, as always, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to drop a review for me, I highly appreciate that. It helps me to get my word out there, to spread my impact and share my message. So thank you so much, and I will catch you on the next one.